On a remote island off the west coast of Scotland, a lighthouse was found empty. The lamp was ready. The rooms were in order. The keepers' beds were empty. But the 3 men who worked there were gone. No bodies were found. No final message explained what happened. And more than a century later, the Flannan Isles disappearance is still one of the most haunting lighthouse mysteries in the world. The date at the center of the story is December 15, 1900. According to the Northern Lighthouse Board, that is when the last entries were noted by the keepers at Flannan Isles Lighthouse. The missing men were James Duckett, the principal keeper, Thomas Marshall, the second assistant, and Donald MacArthur, an occasional keeper filling in for another man on sick leave. For days, the island was isolated by weather and distance. Then, on December 26th, the lighthouse tender Hesperus arrived for the routine relief visit. There was no sign of life. The ship fired a rocket. No one answered. Joseph Moore, the relieving keeper, went ashore and climbed to the lighthouse. What he found was not chaos, it was absence. The entrance gate and outside doors were closed. The clock had stopped. No fire was lit. The beds were empty. But the light room was in proper order. The lamp had been cleaned. The oil was ready. The kitchen was tidy. It looked as if the men had left suddenly, expecting to return. That detail is what made the mystery so powerful. If there had been a struggle, people might imagine violence. If the station had been wrecked, people might imagine disaster. Instead, the lighthouse looked almost normal. Only the keepers were missing. The official investigation focused on the West Landing. There, the evidence was violent. Ropes had been washed away. Iron railings were displaced and twisted. A life buoy had been torn from its fastenings. The Northern Lighthouse Board records that Superintendent Robert Muirhead concluded the men likely went down to secure gear near the West Landing and were caught by an unexpectedly large roller. A great wave may have swept them into the sea. That is the most grounded explanation. It is also terrifying, because it suggests the men did not vanish into fantasy. They vanished into weather. The sea around the Flannan Isles could be brutal. The island cliffs and landing places made work dangerous, even for trained keepers. If the men saw equipment being damaged, they may have rushed to secure it. One man may have gone first. Another may have followed. The third may have left quickly when he realized something was wrong. Then one enormous wave could have ended the story before anyone had time to write it down. But mysteries survive in the spaces official reports cannot fill. Why did all 3 men leave the lighthouse? Why was one coat purportedly left behind? Why was there no body? Why did the station feel so carefully abandoned? Those unanswered questions helped create legends. Over time, people imagined storms, madness, sea monsters, spies, and supernatural forces. But the real story does not need monsters. A remote lighthouse, 3 isolated men, bad weather, a dangerous landing, a sudden wave. That is enough.
The saddest part is that their families never received certainty. The Northern Lighthouse Board notes that the families of the 3 keepers do not know their fate. That is the human center of the mystery, not the legends, not the rumors. The absence. 3 men went to work on a lighthouse, surrounded by sea and stone. When help arrived, the light could be lit again. The machinery could be checked. The rooms could be searched. But the men themselves had become part of the island's silence. Some disappearances feel impossible because they are elaborate. This one feels impossible because it is so simple. A lighthouse was built to make danger visible. And yet, on the Flatten Isles, the danger came close enough to take the keepers without leaving a final answer.